All right. I'd like to thank my subscribers um, getting me to the where I'm at today. And let's get on. Let's get on with it on this Thursday evening. Our Talk Radio, live in 4K. We're going to be talking about Trump's tax plan. Let's get into it. Fair use.
Let's go over the Trump tax plan because it's really interesting. And for those of you who are upset thinking your taxes have gone up under the Biden administration, I'll just remind you that we're still under the Trump tax plan because Republicans have blocked us from passing any new tax laws. So the plan is if you make $75,000 a year, your taxes will go up $1,800. If you make $100,000 a year, your taxes will go up $2,600. If you make $5 million a year, your taxes will go down $325,000 a year. He also cuts overtime pay, which is really helpful. And he cuts the Head Start program. Again, really helpful. So daycare costs will go up for lower income families and pretty much everybody across the board. Meanwhile, the Harris-Walz campaign wants to give a $6,000 credit to families with an infant and reinstate the child tax credit. So you tell me, who do you think is actually looking out for the middle class? Because it seems like Trump wants to raise taxes on the middle class once again.
I don't know, man. People were saying that he's for Americans. He's for Americans. A guy who's never struggled in life. A guy who's always, been for the billionaires. Okay. And check this out when a person that's pro-Trump gets checked on a radio station. Let's get into it. Here we go.
Kamala and Biden, we continue to get higher taxes.
Whose tax plan are we currently under right now?
25% of my paycheck goes to the government.
Whose
I
tax
barely
plan
making
are we
any money.
currently under right now?
Biden and Kamala's, they've
No.
been passing.
We are under the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act until January of 2025 when it expires. We are still under Trump's tax plan. So if you have an issue with your taxes currently, that should be brought up with Donald Trump, as we are under Donald Trump's tax plan.
Kamala tax plans.
We're not under Kamala's tax plan. We're not even under Biden's tax plan. Their tax plan wouldn't go into effect until 2025. So if you have an issue with your taxes, that's Donald Trump's fault.
What?
Yeah. I don't know if you know this. Donald Trump's tax plan was between 2018 and 2025.
I guess that's it. I mean, the person just didn't want to answer no more. You're seeing a lot with the Republicans, these pro-Trumpers. When they get stumped, they get very quiet. Let's just say that they get extremely quiet. They don't want to answer any more questions. They get it's either that they get quiet or they get very extremely defensive. Okay. So let's talk about the 12 terrible things about Trump's GOP tax law. Here we go. All right. Number one, gives 83% of the tax cuts to the richest 1% by 2027. The richest 1% of taxpayers will get 1/5 of 21% of tax cuts. Okay. in 2018. That grows to 83% by 2027 because they benefit most from the corporate tax cuts, and tax cuts for working families will have expired. The average tax cut for the 1% will be $51,000 in 2018. The bottom 60% of taxpayers will get about $1 a day. Tax policy TPC. 2, raises taxes on 92 million middle-class families by 2027 to pay for tax breaks for the wealthy and corporations. That is more than half, 57% of the households making less than $200,000 a year. 69 million households making less than $100,000 a year would also pay more in taxes after the temporary tax cuts for individuals expire. Okay, that's what's number 2. Number 3, increases healthcare premiums and leaves 13 million families without health coverage to pay for tax breaks that mostly benefit the wealthy and corporations. All right. The law repeals a key part of the Affordable Care Act, the requirement for individuals to have health coverage if they can afford it. That saves $314 billion that is used to pay for tax cuts. Joint Committee on Taxation, JCC. Okay. Joint Committee on Taxation. This will lead to 13 million more people each year being uninsured and cause a 10% increase in health insurance premiums for people getting insured on the individual market. 4, provides a permanent tax cut to corporations, but a temporary tax cut for individuals and families. The corporate tax rate is slashed from 35% to 21%, and the corporate alternative minimum tax is eliminated. Tax cuts that benefit working families will expire after 2025. However, one individual tax provision that was made permanent slows down the inflation adjustment for tax brackets, resulting in growing tax increases over time. 5, adds 1.5 to 2.2 trillion to the national debt, jeopardizing critical services. The law includes at least 1.5 trillion in tax cuts that are not paid for, such as by closing loopholes used by the wealthy and corporations. Because the law contains several budget gimmicks that obscure the true cost of tax cuts, the cost could be as much as 2.2 trillion. This will balloon the national debt and further endanger funding for Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, public education, and more. 6, prioritizes the wealthiest taxpayers over working families with children. The law lowers the top individual tax rate from 39.6% to 37%, giving more tax cuts to the richest 518,000 households. The GOP chose not to fully adjust changes in the child tax credit so that some 24 million children in working families could fully benefit. Both changes would cost roughly the same, $80 billion over 10 years. Okay. 7, prioritizes wealthy business owners and real estate developers like Donald Trump. They get a net $265 billion tax cut from a new 20% deduction for pass-through business income, combined with a tightening of rules on losses. Applied to the new 37% top individual tax, this 20% deduction on business income will drop the top pass-through business tax rate from 39.6% to 29.6%. More than 80% of this tax cut will go to the top 5% in 2019. Trump owns more than 500 pass-through owners, which include sole proprietorships, partnerships, LLCs, and S corporations. Pay taxes due on their business income, on their personal returns, at individual rates. 8, kills American jobs by encouraging outsourcing and profit shifting. The law creates a terrible tax system which exempts a large share of foreign profits of U.S. corporations from U.S. taxes and taxes the remainder at half the rate of domestic profits. The law will give U.S. multinationals even more tax incentives to outsource jobs and move investments offshore. 9, hands a $400 billion tax cut to offshore tax dodgers. American corporations have $2.6 trillion in profits stashed offshore, on which they owe $750 billion in U.S. taxes. Rather than make them pay what they owe, all the rest of us do, the law will charge them $339 billion over 400 billion discount. Apple will save 40 billion and Microsoft is likely to save 25 billion. 10, limits the federal deduction for state and local taxes, hurting the middle class. The low caps at 10,000, the amount of state and local property and income or sales taxes that can be deducted from the federal taxable income. This is one of the reasons that nearly 8 million families will see tax increases in 2018. The impact of this change will be felt especially in the 20 states that claim an average SALT deduction of more than 10,000. Limiting SALT will put pressure on state and local budgets, likely forcing cuts to education, healthcare, and infrastructure. 11, lets many wealthy heirs avoid paying the estate tax. The estate tax is substantially weakened, losing 83 billion and allowing very rich families to inherit wealth tax-free. Under prior law, the tax only applies to estates worth over 5.5 million per person or 11 million per couple, about 5,500 estates. Under the new law, only estates worth at least 11 million per person or 22 million per couple, about 1,800 estates, would pay the tax. 12, enriches President Trump and his family. In addition to cutting the top individual income tax rate and creating a tax break for income from pass-through business entities, which Trump owns 500, the law preserves the many existing tax loopholes for real estate investors and even creates a new one. The law exempts real estate owners from a provision meant to limit abuse of the new tax-through income deduction. Trump's exact tax savings are difficult to estimate since he refused to release tax returns, unlike every other president over the last 40 years. But it is likely to be at least 11 million a year, and perhaps as much as 22 million. So how is he able to get away with this then? How is he able to get away with this? All right, so let's check out what Elon Musk's mom what her message is to regular Americans. Let's see what she has to say. Buckle up your seatbelts, folks. You're in for a good laugh. That's all I can tell you. You're in for a very good laugh. Here we go.
And you were recently getting a lot of attention because there was a comedian online who said, listen, I get it. People don't want to have, they're talking about the birth rate, which your son talks a lot about it declining and the problems for humanity with that. And you said to his response about it being too expensive to have kids, you said, that's not the way to think about this. Explain.
Well, you know, when I had my children, we were in a two-bedroom small apartment overlooking a garage. And then the next year, I have the second child.
What she not telling you is how she was able to have these stuff, okay? All right. Elon Musk's father and mother lived in South Africa during the time of apartheid. His father stole an emerald mine from the Africans, forcing them to do labor, which is why Elon Musk comes from a very rich family. This is the delusion of people who are extremely wealthy, you know, who are like Elon Musk's mom, who thinks it's okay to say the things she is saying.
We had an apartment with a view. And then by the third child, we could get a two.
Most people who are living struggling don't have an apartment with a view. They're living in the projects, some of them. Okay.
Bedroom house. And you just, you know, as you move on, you start doing better and better. But people, you know, you don't have to go to the movies. You don't have to go out for dinner. You can just spend time with the most wonderful gifts you.
Wow. Don't go out to movies, but you could afford to go out to the movies. You could afford because you literally had slaves. Oh gosh. Whoa, the things she says, man. I mean, the lady literally had slaves in South Africa, and she's telling common folk to destroy their budget and just go out and have babies so her son could have more slaves. It just won't be in South Africa. It will be as corporations and Tesla where people are facing racial discrimination, or when he gets in the future, he will have company towns. Whew. Look up the history of company towns. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up the history of company towns, and that's what Elon Musk wants to build. I believe he's trying to build one in Texas. Okay. Oh man, this is just crazy, man. It's crazy. It's out of this world, man. Out of this world. And you won't believe what Elon Musk thinks about homelessness. So let's think about let's hear about that.
Here in the United States continues. This time, the attack is coming from the richest man on the planet, none other than Elon Musk himself. According to Elon Musk, what he put on social media on December 10th, so just a couple days ago, Elon Musk said this: "The Save the Homeless NGOs, non-governmental organizations, are often paid according to how many homeless people are on the streets, thus creating a strong financial incentive for them to maximize the number of homeless people and never actually solve the problem. The more homeless there are, the more money these organizations get, so their incentives is to increase, not decrease, homelessness." He actually said that last part in September. The other part was from December 10th. So, according to Elon Musk, these groups out there like, we got to save the homeless people, are somehow creating more homelessness. That is a new one. But you know what else is a new thing I've never heard is from an interview that Elon Musk did with Tucker Carlson back in October, where Musk said this: "Homeless is a misnomer. It implies that someone got a little bit behind on their mortgage, and if you just gave them a job, they'd be back on their feet. What you actually have are violent drug zombies with dead eyes and needles and human feces on the street." He said that the word homeless is a lie and a, quote, propaganda word. Homelessness is a lie. And every single unhoused person in this country, apparently, according to Elon Musk's statement, it's because you're on drugs. So if you see somebody on the street that doesn't have a home to go to, Elon Musk thinks that it is 100% because this person's on drugs. And by the way, Elon Musk is not the only billionaire out there screaming about how horrible unhoused people are. Other billionaires, according to the report, influential billionaires and right-wing think tanks have been advancing legislation that criminalizes homelessness in Congress and at the Supreme Court, and they all share this backwards, incorrect view that if we punish people enough, they will choose not to be poor. In January of 2023, the last year for which the full data is available, more than 650,000 people were experiencing homelessness on a single night in the U.S., marking a 12% increase from 2022 and the most ever recorded by the Department of Housing and Urban Development in nearly 20 years. Nearly 3 out of every 10 people experiencing homelessness are part of a family with children, and 17% of all unhoused people were children under the age of 18. 17% of kids, right? Those aren't drug addicts. And let's be real here. Substance abuse can lead to homelessness. However, it's not even in the top 3 causes of homelessness here in the United States. In fact, it is number 5. According to a survey by the U.S. Conference of Mayors, major cities across the country report that top causes of homelessness among families were, number 1, lack of affordable housing. Number 2, unemployment. Number 3, poverty. Number 4, low wages. And way down at number 5, substance abuse and the lack of needed circumstances. Furthermore, 15% of unhoused people in the United States are victims of domestic violence. These are not drug users.